Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today we're going to be taking a look at some film on Mike Evans. So for those who may not know, I'm a Saints fan and this is a division rival, so I know this man very, very well. Let's get straight into the video, man. So the very first play you see, you got Mike Evans lined up. He's lined up in a tight split, meaning he's closer to the line of scrimmage. You got to have a situation of 3rd and 6. So like I said, I always use these videos also to teach, once again, from a corner's perspective. When you're looking at a receiver who has a tighter split, more times than not, they're probably going to run an outbreaking route. The reason why they line up tighter to the line is to try to give themselves room to be able to work towards the outside. So that's pretty much what Mike Evans does right here. It looks like that it probably was in some type of zone coverage because they gave him a free release, which is something you necessarily don't want to do. You want to try to slow those receivers down and not give them a full head of steam going into whatever zone that they're going to be going into. And they don't do that right here. And he just kind of has a clean release and really just, a lot of separation whenever he ran this route. If you look at this play right here, Baker Mayfield actually was kind of, getting hit as he threw it. So he probably couldn't get it as accurate as he wanted. But once again, like I always talk about, what are you able to do on your own as a receiver? Are you able to catch the balls that aren't idealistically thrown, meaning it's not hitting you square in the numbers? Are you able to catch them if they thrown too high, or if they thrown too low, or if they thrown behind you? Are you able to make the adjustment to the catch? And we see right here, Mike Evans does that. So right here on this play, we got a red area possession. And like I said, when you get in the red area, in order to be dominant, you have to be able to make tough catches and maneuver in tight situations, being that everything is so much more compressed. And this play right here is kind of really just the embodiment of what you get in the NFL and what you get out of a receiver like Mike Evans. So when I say what you get out of the NFL, what I mean is look at the little to no separation there was. If you look at a lot of these plays that these receivers are making, from Mike Evans to JJ to Jamar Chase to Tyreek Hill to George Pickens to CD Lamb, man, there's not a lot of space. So that tells you that you have to become very well at ball skills, being able to track the ball and being able to make tough catches. So right here, you just have a lot of hand fighting going on. And I'm glad that this was a no call. You look at the corner, he was decided to try to get a little bit more physical with Mike Evans. Obviously, Mike Evans embraces the physicality, but the corner played this as good as you can play it, honestly. He kind of somewhat gave him a free release, but then he got his hands on him as he was stemming upfield to try to slow him down. He pretty much probably was anticipate that it was a fade route. And once again, man, like I said, the coverage was good, but the offense was even better in terms of the throw and even in terms of the ability for Mike Evans to be able to track the ball and to be able to make the catch while having a hand fighting battle going on with the cornerback. And not only that, being able to make sure that he was able to get both feet in to secure the touchdown catch, man. This is beauty at its finest. All right, so right here we got another gotta have a situation, another red area possession. I always put emphasis on the red area. Obviously, like I always say, every possession on the in the red area is a gotta have it, whether it's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th down. When you get down here, you want to be able to put up points regardless if it's a touchdown or a field goal. But like I always say, a touchdown is much better than a field goal. So you have Mike Evans matched up in the slot, and it's crazy too because most of the plays we've seen so far, he's been lined up in the slot. Obviously, based off of his size and stature, you would think that, he would be more comfortable with operating outside the numbers by him being a bigger receiver. But that goes to show you the versatility for one, and it goes to show you the shiftiness that he has to be able to maneuver in those tight situations like this one right here. So once again, he gets matched up in a one-on-one situation, and the corner gets physical with him at the line of scrimmage. But like I said, man, Mike Evans in a lot of ways is one of those receivers that he embraces the physicality. I know some receivers probably don't like being jammed up at the line, but Mike Evans welcomes it. And once again, he just does a good job of just kind of being able to fight off the guy, be able to get off of his jam, get his hands down. Like I said, as a receiver, you got to be able to use your hands for much more than just catching. You got to be able to use your hands to fan fight and to put yourself in a better position to be able to come up with a catch like he did right here on this touchdown catch. And he did a good job too at also being able to adjust to it, which, like I said, most guys when they're bigger, especially his size, a lot of them probably aren't the most shiftiest of guys. But I feel like Mike Evans, for his size, is a very shifty guy. He does have the capability of being able to not just make those tough catches, being like basically going up and making catches over defenders, but he's also able to make those catches to where he kind of got to contort his body like right here, thinking the ball is going to be coming towards one way, and then being able to readjust your body to the other way to be able to make sure that you come up with the touchdown catch. All right, so we got another red area possession, man. You know, these are my favorite possessions. I love the red area. Like I said, man, when you get to the red area, you want to be able to capitalize, and you want to have that reliable guy that you know that once we get down there, we can count on him. And so far, we've seen that obviously over Mike Evans' career, but just so far breaking film, we've already seen that majority of the plays that we have seen. So once again, you have him matched up in the slot. He's matched up and they get a one-on-one matchup with him and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's a darn good safety, darn good cover safety. I like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Obviously, he was with the Saints, so you know there's a certain level of love still there with what he's done, what he did for us being with us. But you know, Mike Evans just gets the best of him on this route right here. You see, he's calling for a push off. But at the end of the day, this is my thing on that. If both of them are actively engaging, like, because if you look at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he's going to get his hands on him right here. Boom. So if both of them are actively engaging, hey, man, I would, probably be a little hesitant on throwing a flag for offensive pass interference or defensive pass interference, because at that point, now it just becomes a battle of the hands and a battle of positioning. And right here, we see that Mike Evans wins this one, just like how we've seen all the other ones that he's won whenever they've given them to him. All right, so on this play right here, we got another red area possession, obviously, but this is one of the very few plays that we see in the National Football League where the separation between the receiver and the DB is just that magnificent. So right here, once again, you see Mike Evans lined up in the slot. He's lined up in a tighter split close to the line of scrimmage. So once again, just like I said, defensive backs, whether you are a corner or a safety that's in man coverage, a lot of times you got to look at the position. You got to look at the down and distance for one, and you got to look at the position of where the receivers are lined up. Are they lined up tight? Are they lined up wide? I mean, and that kind of can give you an understanding of where they're possibly going. So right here, once again, he's lined up in the slot tight, and he just runs a corner route, and I mean, he just pretty much loses the corner. The corner, like, he kind of got caught with dead feet, honestly. I'm pretty sure that by him playing off, he kind of probably was playing with zone eyes, kind of trying to get eyes on the quarterback, or he might have just been thinking that he had that over the top help, which I don't understand why he would have thought he had that, especially if they were in a single high coverage. But that's neither here nor there. We're just talking about this play right now. But once again, Mike Evans just is able to separate so greatly from him, and Baker Mayfield does a good job of just placing that ball right there in the perfect spot to where Mike Evans can just run up under it and then just pretty much two-step into the end zone for a touchdown. All right, man. So we got a division matchup right here, man. You got the Saints versus the Bucs. Like I said, man, I'm a Saints fan, so I hate to see plays like this. I hate to see plays that go for positive yardage, man. But on a serious note, so you see Mike Evans lined up again. So now on this play right here, he's kind of lined up in a much tighter split than we've seen so far. Like, he's really on the verge of almost being a tight end. The only difference is he just doesn't have his hand in the dirt, honestly. But I've been noticing that a lot of his damage that we've seen so far has been from the inside out. A lot of it has been him operating from the slot, whether he's the one on the one that's closest to the line of scrimmage or whether he's the middle guy. But a lot of what he has been doing has been just working from the inside out, whether that be an out route, whether that be a corner route. And right here, he just kind of had Adebo beat even from the get-go. If you look at the way Adebo was pretty much lined up, Adebo basically was pretty much saying, based off of his alignment, he was pretty much saying, you're going to have to go outside, because if you go inside, you're going to run directly into me. So he pretty much just gave Mike Evans a free release, almost like he just basically gave him that route right there. He tried to get his hands on him, but at that point, I mean, just based off of leverage, it was just too late. Mike Evans just did a good job at, once again, like I said, utilizing his hands, being able to prevent Adebo from getting his hands on him, and was just able to get a free release and be able to pick up some yards after the catch as well. So right here, you see, once again, he's not lined up in the slot, but he's lined up in a bunch formation. So if you look at it, even though he's not lined up in the slot, he's still not out wide. He's still lined up, right there pretty much on top of the numbers, might be slightly inside the numbers. So once again, like I said, you pretty much can kind of guess what type of route he's going to be running. And I wish I could see like the full camera view, because it looks like, maybe he ran out. He might have faked as if he might have ran like a sluggo in a sense, ran and made it seem like he was going to run an in and then just got vertically up the field, because just looking at where he's at right there, and then whenever he comes back into frame, looking at the position, like it kind of was an upfield stem, and it could have just been him kind of just trying to kind of fade away from exactly where the defense was at, because it looked like they were in some type of zone coverage. But once again, he does a good job at just being able to get himself open. Also, you can tell that on this play, this probably wasn't one of Baker Mayfield's best thrown balls, considering that he had a cleaning pocket. But I get it from the standpoint of you're looking at the safety over the top and the safety underneath. So you're trying to put it in a position to where neither one of them are able to really impact it. And when you got a guy like Mike Evans, obviously you do have a guy who's able to adjust to be able to adjust to those tough catches. Like I said, once again, it goes back to what can you do on your own. If the ball isn't placed in between the numbers, or if it isn't placed in the pocket to where you can get just run underneath it, are you still able to create plays from there? And once again, we see that he was able to make the adjustment for the touchdown. All right, so this is one of those plays that I talk about when I say being able to play on script and off script. So what I mean by that, for those who may not know, when I say being able to play on script, that means that when they drew this play up, they were initially thinking that the first look that was going to, like, so with Mike Evans running this route, when they drew up this play, they were assuming that play might have possibly been open, right? So obviously when you run it in practice, you're not running it based off of this. You're running it based off of how it's looking in practice, whether you run it on air or whether you run it on the scout team. So what happens when it doesn't go as planned? What happens when the DB or the linebacker, whoever covers it well from the at the beginning? What are you able to do in a sense? And it's almost like what you would say called making a second play. You know, is the second play better than the first play? And right here, Mike Evans did a good job at being aware that Baker Mayfield was rolling out of the pocket. So once he realized that Baker Mayfield was rolling out the pocket, he decided to say, okay, well, let me reroute myself and let me try to create a throwing lane and give him a target to throw to. And that's what he did right here. He just was able to, you know, like I say, be able to play off script and be able to find a spot within that defense to give Baker Mayfield a target. So this has to be one of the beautiful plays that I've seen since I've been breaking down film, man. Just a phenomenal catch, just phenomenal awareness to be able to get both feet in bounds to secure the catch, man. So right here, and once again, like I say, we got a red area possession. So when you have a receiver like Mike Evans, this is where he becomes so lethal in the red area. So you know, like how when you get in the red area, when you got a quarterback that can run the ball like a Lamar Jackson, the Jay Danes, or Josh Allen, they become so much deadly in there because they can just run it in for a touchdown. So when you get down here this close, when you got a big body physical receiver like Mike Evans that can make those tough catches in traffic, that's when he becomes a human cheat code, because there's no way that you can stop this. If he gets the right positioning and if the quarterback is able to put the ball in the right position, man, there's really no stopping. It's just like on this play right here, the corner, you know, he tried to get as handsy with him as he could. I mean, he didn't really get physical with him at the line of scrimmage, but it looks like he tried to kind of get a little physical with him as he was kind of stemming into his route. Like I said, Mike Evans does a good job at just being able to fight off your hands, like kind of like George Pickens, and put himself in a position to be able to catch the ball. And right here, man, he makes a ridiculous one-handed catch. And like I said, man, the catch itself is insane, but just being able to get 2 feet down to be able to make the one-handed catch, reel it in, and get 2 feet down to secure the touchdown. This is like Da Vinci, when Da Vinci has that perfect paint and people are like, this is art. For me, looking at this type of play right here, that's the equivalent of that for me. So right here, you see we got Mike Evans lined up on the outside. So he's lined up on a much wider split. But once again, teaching moment. When it goes back to what I said, watch the splits. When he's lined up out wide, what did he end up running right here? Something towards the inside. When we seen him on those tighter splits, what were he running? Stuff towards the outside. So right here, he runs a slant. The corner's playing off coverage, and Baker Mayfield does a good job at just getting the ball right there to him and allowing him to be able to run after the catch. So this is the importance of ball placement and putting the ball in a position to where you either can protect the receiver or you can give him an opportunity for yards after the catch. So he puts that right on the money, and Mike Evans just keeps rolling once he catches the ball. Does a good job at seeing a defender coming and just pulls off a Houdini act, just jumping over the defender's head and kind of just leaving him tackling air. Like, watch this. Once he jumped over his head, he just, boom, went straight into the turf after that, man. So that's just a phenomenal play. And that just showcases his athleticism as well. You know, I think that a lot of times we look at his size and his stature and we kind of downplay what he can do for his size. And I think that this play right here just shows you just how shifty and just how crafty he is with that big 6'5" frame. All right, so we got another one of those off-script plays again. So right here, it looked like they was running a drag route, but he did a good job at just being able to get his eyes back to the quarterback. Obviously, as a receiver, that's one of the things that you most definitely have to be doing, is getting your eyes back to the quarterback, just being able to try to track the ball. And in situations like this, if you know that you have a quarterback like Baker, a quarterback who can maneuver, who can extend plays, then obviously you know that once you look back and you realize that's what he's doing, okay, let me reroute myself, because more times than not, defenses aren't going to be disciplined. So when they see that quarterback roll out and lose containment, more times than not, you're going to have DBs who are going to sacrifice giving up maybe a 5 to 6 to 7, maybe a 10-yard run for a 30-some-yard touchdown pass. Not saying that's what they did here. He just did a good job at just being able to find that. Now, I will say this, too. I'm not necessarily going to say that because obviously it might have not been the guy who was kind of closest to him, but in the area of where he ended up, and I'm talking about Mike Evans, if the defensive player might have stayed in that area or stayed put, that pass might have not been possible. But like I said, once again, once you lose containment on the quarterback, more times than not, most people are going to go for that quarterback, and that's going to allow things downfield, just like this right here. Now, he does a good job, once again, with contact balance, just being able to run through this not arm tackle, but just kind of just trying to throw his body on him. You know, with a guy like Mike Evans, you're going to have to be much more physical than that. You're going to have to try to hit him, and you're going to have to try to wrap him up to bring him down. Even if not to bring him down, to be able to slow him down for your help to be able to come, because you had Derwin James coming right there on the back end to be able to assist you. If you just would have hit him up and wrapped him up, you didn't. You just threw your body into him, and he was able to bounce off. And once again, walk into, like I said in the previous one, 2-step into the end zone for an easy touchdown. All right, so on this play right here, we see what the embodiment of the art of deception is whenever it comes to route running. So you see that you got Mike Evans matched up one-on-one with number 7 on the outside. So he does a good job at number 7 does a good job at trying to maintain being squared. That way he can kind of play exactly what it is Mike Evans going to do, whether he's going to attack left, whether he's going to attack right, or whether he's just going to kind of attack vertically and stem on up. So Mike Evans realizes, and he's already playing off on top of that. So Mike Evans realizes that, so he has to give a fake to try to be able to catch him off balance or make him be able to come down to where he can get a step off of him. So right here, once again, he does a good job of just attacking the outside, the shoulder, the left shoulder of the DB, and pretty much just kind of had him on skates. So the DB kind of like he was already off balance. Like you see where he looks like when he seen Mike Evans was kind of was going to stem outside, you see that he kind of was finna to flip his hips and be able to try to stay over the top of it. But when Mike Evans did a good job at really honestly selling this. And I think a lot of times whenever it comes to double moves, I think receivers a lot of times kind of can just be too much in a rush and they don't really sell it. You know, in order for it to work and be effective, you have to really be able to make the defensive back think that you're really going to do that in order for it to work. So on this play right here, he has to kind of sell it. So you see when he goes right here, boom, right? And he didn't just boom, boom, he boom, and then boom back, and he sold it just a little bit more. So he actually was in it, like I say right there. Boom. So look at how when he made that break, it almost looked honestly as if he was going to probably run an out route. And obviously watching film and looking at where he's lined up kind of inside or on top of the numbers from a cornerback's perspective, you're kind of anticipating something out. So when he sells that out, he pretty much catches him off balance. And after that, it was just all the way to the house. So right here, you got a 2nd and 7. You got Mike Evans matched up one-on-one on the boundary side of the field, which is the short side of the field. And you can tell that you're looking at the momentum of the game. Dallas is up 10-0, and you can tell that Tampa Bay was looking for something big to be able to get them going. And obviously, when you need a play to be made, you're going to go to your go-to guy, just like who is Mike Evans, obviously. So just like they did on this play right here, you get the matchup that you want, idealistically, one-on-one to the boundary side with your number 1 guy, and you're going to take that more times than not. And once again, Baker Mayfield does a good job at just being able to kind of put the ball out there. And Mike Evans does a good job at being able to, once again, win the hand fighting battle. Like I said, man, that's very important. And if you notice, like I said in my last video, if you pay attention to whenever the receiver and the DB is hand fighting, and more times than not, when either or comes up victorious, it's like it slows down the momentum of the other player. That's why that is so important. If you notice that whenever you see when the receivers engage, right, and it looks like right here, boom, it looks like they right there side by side, step for step. And then as soon as they engage and one of them wins the battle, you see the separation slowly starts to kind of gain. And that's exactly what happened right here. But once again, he just does a phenomenal job at just being able to adjust to the pass and being able to dive out there and go get it. And like I said, once again, having that big 6'5" frame, it increases the catch radius of what you can do. So when you got a guy that's as big and long as Mike Evans, but then that also has the ability to adjust to the ball mid-air, you can be able to afford to throw passes a little bit ahead of him or sometimes a little bit behind him, depending on how the defense play it, and trust and believe that he's going to be able to make the adjustment to come up with it, just like how he did on this play. So right here, man, we got another red aerial possession. You got a one-on-one matchup on the outside with Mike Evans going up against number 31. And I'm like Shaq, in the famous words of Shaq, That's barbecue chicken right there, man. He just pretty much beats him from the beginning all the way through. So once again, he does a good job at knowing where he wants to go. Right? As a receiver, you have that knowledge of knowing exactly where it is that you want to go. So by you knowing that you want to go inside, what are you going to attack? You're going to attack the outside shoulder. You're going to try to attack that shoulder and make him defend that, because like I said, even just by a slight shift of the DB, it creates that lane going towards the middle, just like how he does right here. And once again, man, he just does a good job at utilizing his hands, man. Just look at how he's able to just, pretty much engage and rip over the top of him. Let's take another look at that, man. Once again, like I said, man, this is like watching Da Vinci. This is close quarters football at its finest. Once again, and like I always state, when you get in the red area, you have to be able to win those matchups, right? When we can get them, those one-on-one matchups, you have to be able to win. And this was another one of those plays too, where you seen that insane amount of separation on the route. So right here, you got another barbecue chicken moment, man. You got another one-on-one matchup on the outside, just a different side of the field with Mike Evans matched up on number 31. And I agree with the commentators. What the commentator said, that when you see this route right here, it wasn't much skill involved. It was just all physicality, and that's exactly what it was. He just pretty much bullies the cornerback, man. I'm talking about just handling him. Like, just look at how he's throwing him off balance with just, you just pushing him. And it really don't even look like he's putting that much of his power into being able to just kind of shove him around like a little kid. So he comes off the line of scrimmage. The corner engages. Like I said, I agree with the hand fight, and I don't think it was OPI, nor do I think it was DPI. For those who may not know, that's offensive pass interference or defensive pass interference. I think that it was a fair engagement from both ends, and obviously Mike Evans just did a good job at being more physical at the point of attack and coming up with the touchdown catch. All right, so we got another red area possession right here, and we got a long-standing rivalry. Obviously, I'm a Saints fan, and the whole rivalry between Lattimore and Mike Evans. Whenever those two match up, it's always fireworks that's going on. So we got a red area possession right here, and like I said, when we're looking at a lot of these matchups one-on-one, sometimes you got to kind of just look at the guys that they're beating to just see, okay, are they beating the top guys, the elite cover guys, or are they beating the guys that's, good, but they're not necessarily great, and obviously I know not Mike Evans, but Marshon Lattimore is aging. I know he's getting older, and I know he's battled injuries, but to me, he's still one of the better cover corners because, he's physical at the point of attack, and that's why he always played Mike Evans so well. So right here, but I mean, he just was in no man's land. Like Shaq said, man, this was just barbecue chicken right here. And like I say, talking to the younger receivers, notice that when Mike Evans is coming up off the line and making his moves, he's moving vertical and attacking that space, right? That's the only way that you can make the corner believe what it is that you're trying to get him to think with your releases and your how whatever it is you're doing, whether you shimmy shaking or whether it's you hop stepping off the line. Whenever you're doing all those things, you want to make sure that you're attacking vertically when you do it. Obviously, he does a good job at just attacking the outside shoulder, because you have to take that into consideration, because that they like to throw the fade ball with Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, because that's kind of hard to stop if that ball is placed in the perfect position. Obviously, due to Mike Evans' stature, by him being 6'5", it's kind of hard to you can't really make up the difference in terms of the height. Like I said, but he just does a good job of just attacking the outside shoulder and just getting inside, and Baker puts a dart right there in between number 20 and in between Lattimore to Mike Evans for an easy passing catch. All right, man. So we got another one of those Da Vinci type plays, man. Just beauty all around. So we see Mike Evans ran an out route. So obviously that's what he ran a lot of from watching film, especially early on. A lot of what he was doing, a lot of what he was operating from was him lining up in the slot and tighter splits and kind of running a lot of out stuff, whether it was speed outs, whether it was corner routes, just out breaking routes. So it's kind of similar to what he does right here on this route right here. Now, granted, I'm not quite sure exactly where his split was at, but I'm assuming that it was a much tighter split considering kind of how much space he had to work with. And like I said, this was a guy to have a situation. It was a 3rd and 7. He was able to make the catch. The DB did a good job at just being able to drive on the ball and trying to secure the tackle to prevent the 3rd down. So this was a guy to have it for them as well. But Mike Evans did a good job at just being able to maintain his balance and once again utilize that long 6'5" frame to be able to get up, to be able to stick the ball out and break the plane for the 1st down. Like I say, man, these are the plays that we look at when we're breaking down. Like for me, when I'm breaking down film and I'm trying to decide how dominant a guy is, these are the plays that I'm looking to see. Those got to have it, those third downs, those red area possessions. Whenever those plays are needed to be made, are those guys making those plays? And obviously we've seen that Mike Evans was able to do that. And I think one of the things that sticks out to me too, boy, Mike Evans, honestly, is just the consistency. I think that a lot of times we kind of overlook what this guy is doing since he's been in the National Football League, because it's almost an expectation at this point. And I will say too, another thing that helped him out, another thing that I'm looking at with him as well, was that you got to think about it. He ended up having to go a while, the rest of the season without Chris Godwin because of the injury that Chris Godwin had. So guess what? Once Chris Godwin goes down, now teams' defensive coordinators can focus more in on Mike Evans more now that they don't have to worry about Chris Godwin hurting them on the opposite end. So you consider that he lost his number 2 option and he still was able to do what he was able to do over the course of this year, man. That was just all around phenomenal. But Mike Evans is one of those guys that that you would love to have on your team. He's a guy who brings that grit, that physicality, that competitiveness, and that's something that you love to see. And obviously it's the work ethic that he brings too, for him to be able to be consistent, and that's what you want from a captain on your team, because that type of stuff is contagious. Guys feed off of that, and a lot of great things can happen from that. But man, if you guys did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, man. Smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. When you subscribe, make sure that you got that notification bell turned on. That way you don't miss an upload, because like you guys see, I'm uploading every day and you don't want to miss it. And I'll see y'all in the next video.